Now, let's dive into today's story. The rain hammered against the windshield as Michael Holloway navigated through the midnight streets of Portland, his phone still warm against his ear from the call that had shattered his world 15 minutes ago. His son's voice echoed in his mind. Not panicked, but cold, deliberate. That's what scared him most. "Dad, they're saying Mom died in her sleep. But I saw him. I saw Raymond put something in her drink." Michael had been in Chicago when it happened, 3 states away, closing a deal on a commercial property development that would have made him and Catherine financially independent. They'd separated 8 months ago, the divorce still pending, but they'd remained civil. Friendly, even. For Jeffrey's sake. Then Catherine met Raymond Brady at some charity function. 6 weeks later, she'd moved him into the house Michael had bought her in the settlement negotiations. Jeffrey was 16, old enough to have opinions, old enough to see things clearly. The police station loomed ahead, its fluorescent lights cutting through the downpour. Michael pulled into the lot, his hands steady on the wheel despite the rage building in his chest. He'd learned control during his years as a Marine, then honed it further during a decade building his real estate empire from nothing. Control was everything. Inside, the station smelled of stale coffee and bureaucratic indifference. A young officer at the desk looked up, bored, ready to dismiss another civilian complaint. "I'm here for my son, Jeffrey McKnight. He called me about." "Mr. Holloway?" Michael turned. The voice belonged to a detective emerging from a side office, a woman in her 40s with sharp eyes and graying hair pulled into a tight bun. She studied him with the kind of intensity that came from years of reading people. "Detective Adrian Gregory, your son is in interview room 2. But before you see him, we need to talk." She led him down a corridor, past holding cells and administrative offices, into a cramped room with a 2-way mirror. Through the glass, Michael could see Jeffrey sitting alone at a metal table, his posture rigid, his face expressionless. The kid looked like Michael had at that age. Same dark hair, same angular features, same habit of clenching his jaw when processing trauma. "Your ex-wife was pronounced dead at 11:47 p.m., Gregory said, her tone professional but not unkind. "Preliminary assessment suggests cardiac arrest." Her husband, Raymond Brady, called 911 at 11:34 p.m., stating he'd found her unresponsive in bed. By the time paramedics arrived, she'd been gone approximately 15 minutes. "My son saw him poison her." Gregory's expression didn't change. "Your son claims he saw Mr. Brady put something in a glass of wine approximately 2 hours before Mrs. McKnight went to bed. He didn't report it at the time. He didn't warn his mother. He just watched." The implication hung in the air. Michael's eyes narrowed. "You think he's lying?" "I think teenage boys going through their parents' divorce sometimes develop resentment toward new parental figures. I think grief makes people say things they don't mean. And I think Mr. Brady is downstairs right now, devastated, having just lost the woman he loved." Michael looked through the glass at his son again. Jeffrey's eyes were fixed on the table, but his fingers drummed a pattern Michael recognized. Morse code, something Michael had taught him during camping trips. S-less, TRUTH. "I want to see my son. Mr. Holloway." "Now." Gregory hesitated, then nodded. "5 minutes. And I'll be right outside." The interview room was cold, the air conditioning set too high. Jeffrey looked up when Michael entered, and for a moment, the mask cracked. His eyes were red-rimmed, his face pale, but there was something else there, a hardness that shouldn't exist in a 16-year-old. "Dad." Jeffrey's voice was steady. "They don't believe me." Michael sat across from him, the metal chair scraping against linoleum. "Tell me exactly what you saw." Jeffrey took a breath. "Raymond came home around 8. Mom was in the kitchen, making dinner. She'd opened a bottle of that red wine she liked, from the cabinet. Raymond went upstairs, said he had to make some calls. I was doing homework in the living room, but I could see into the kitchen from where I was sitting." "Go on." "He came back down maybe 20 minutes later. Mom had poured herself a glass and was at the stove. Raymond picked up the bottle, said something about checking if it was the good vintage. Then he poured himself a glass from the bottle and got Mom's glass from the counter. I saw him take a small vial from his pocket, clear liquid, and put maybe 5 drops into her glass. He stirred it with his finger and put the glass back exactly where it was. And you didn't say anything." Jeffrey's jaw tightened. "I was across the room. By the time I processed what I'd seen, Mom had already picked up the glass and taken a drink. I started to say something, But Raymond looked right at me. Right at me, Dad. And he smiled. Michael felt ice settle in his gut. What kind of smile? The kind that said he knew I saw, and he knew I couldn't prove anything. Then he turned back to Mom and asked her about her day like nothing happened. I went upstairs. I didn't know what to do. I thought maybe I'd imagined it. Or maybe it was something harmless. Or maybe, his voice cracked. I should have said something. Don't. Michael's voice was firm. Don't do that to yourself. What happened after? I stayed in my room. Around 10, I heard them go to bed. Their room is next to mine. I heard them talking, heard her laughing at something he said. Then it went quiet. Around 11:30, I heard Raymond yelling for help. When I came out, he was on the phone with 911, crying, saying Mom wouldn't wake up. The vial. Did you see where he put it? His pocket. I'm sure of it. Michael leaned back, his mind already working through the angles. What did you tell the police? Everything. They took Raymond's statement first. He told them Mom had been complaining about chest pain earlier in the week, that she'd mentioned feeling tired. Then they talked to me, and when I told them what I saw, that detective, Gregory, she looked at me like I was making it up for attention. Did they search Raymond? I don't know. He's been in another room the whole time, playing the grieving widower. Jeffrey's hands clenched into fists. Dad, he killed her. I know it. And he's going to get away with it. The door opened. Detective Gregory stepped in, her expression apologetic but firm. Mr. Holloway, I need to speak with you. Jeffrey, you're free to go with your father, but we may have additional questions tomorrow. Outside the interview room, Gregory led Michael to a quieter corridor. We've completed our preliminary investigation. Mr. Brady consented to a full search. No vial, no suspicious substances. His phone records show he was on business calls during the time your son claims he was upstairs. The medical examiner will perform an autopsy, but given Mrs. McKnight's recent stress and the lack of evidence of foul play, this appears to be a tragic but natural death. You're not even going to test for poisons. Standard toxicology will be performed as part of the autopsy. If anything unusual appears, we'll investigate further. But Mr. Holloway, I have to be honest with you. Your son's story has inconsistencies. He claims he saw something suspicious hours before his mother's death, but did nothing. He has a potential motive for wanting to implicate Mr. Brady, and there's no physical evidence to support his claims. Michael kept his voice level. What was Raymond Brady doing in the 2 years before he met my wife? Gregory's eyes flickered with something, surprise, maybe, or respect. That's not relevant to. Humor me. She sighed. He's a pharmaceutical sales representative. Has been for 8 years. Clean record, no history of violence or criminal activity. Stable employment, good credit. By all accounts, a model citizen who fell in love with a woman and is now devastated by her death. Pharmaceutical sales. Michael let that sink in. So he has access to drugs. So do thousands of people, Mr. Holloway. That doesn't make them murderers. Michael nodded slowly. Can I take my son home? Yes. We have your contact information if we need anything else. And Mr. Holloway. Gregory's expression softened slightly. I'm sorry for your loss. Whatever happened tonight, your ex-wife is gone. Focus on your son. He needs you. In the parking lot, rain still falling in sheets, Jeffrey stood beside Michael's car, shivering despite his jacket. Michael unlocked the doors, and they climbed inside, the silence heavy between them. You believe me, don't you? Jeffrey's voice was small, younger than it had been in the interview room. Michael started the engine, letting it warm up before pulling out of the lot. Yes, son. I believe you. So what do we do? Michael's hands tightened on the wheel. We go home. We get through the funeral. And then we find out everything there is to know about Raymond Brady. They drove in silence for several miles before Jeffrey spoke again. Dad? In the interview room, when I was waiting for you, Officer Wade Tucker, the young one at the front desk, he came in to check on me. He said something weird. What? He said, I hope your story checks out, kid. Because if you're telling the truth about Raymond Brady, you're not the first person to notice something off about that guy. You're just the first person to say it out loud. Michael glanced at his son, then back at the road. Did he say anything else? No. Gregory called him out right after that, and he left. But Dad, what if? What if Raymond's done this before? Michael finished the thought, his mind already racing ahead. What if Catherine wasn't his first victim? They pulled up to Michael's downtown loft 40 minutes later. He'd been staying there since the separation, a temporary arrangement until the divorce was finalized, and he could find something more permanent. Now, with Catherine gone, the future looked different. Darker. Inside, Michael poured himself 2 fingers of bourbon and gestured for Jeffrey to sit on the couch. The kid looked exhausted, running on adrenaline and grief. "Get some sleep," Michael said. "We'll deal with everything tomorrow." "I can't sleep. Every time I close my eyes, I see her taking that drink. I see Raymond smile. I should have." "Stop." Michael sat beside him, his voice firm but gentle. "Listen to me, Jeffrey. What happened tonight isn't your fault. You're 16 years old. You saw something that didn't make sense, and by the time you understood what it meant, it was too late. That's not on you. That's on Raymond Brady. But the police don't believe me. The police are following procedure. They need evidence, and right now, we don't have any. But that's going to change." Jeffrey looked at him with red-rimmed eyes. "How?" Michael took a long drink of bourbon, feeling it burn down his throat. "Because I'm going to find it. And when I do, Raymond Brady is going to pay for what he did to your mother." The detective said the toxicology report will take weeks. Then we have weeks to build our case. But first, we need to know who we're dealing with. Michael pulled out his phone and opened a notes app. "Tell me everything you know about Raymond Brady. Everything you've observed since your mother started seeing him." Jeffrey thought for a moment. "He moved in about 2 months ago. He's 43, never been married before. Mom said he told her he'd been focused on his career, building his reputation in pharmaceutical sales. He travels a lot for work, sometimes gone for days at a time." "Where does he travel?" "I don't know exactly. Different cities. He'd mention clients, meetings. Mom seemed happy about it because he made good money." "What else?" "He was charming, I guess. Always knew the right thing to say. But when Mom wasn't around, he was different. Colder. He'd look at me like I was an inconvenience." Jeffrey paused. "There was this one time, maybe 3 weeks ago. I came home early from school, and Raymond was in Dad's, in Mom's office, going through papers. When he saw me, he acted like it was normal, said he was looking for some insurance documents. But the way he closed the drawer, it was too quick, too defensive." Michael made a mental note. "Did you tell your mother?" "No. I figured it wasn't my business. The house was technically hers now, and Raymond lived there. But looking back, it felt wrong." "What kind of papers do you think he was looking at?" "I don't know. But Mom kept all the important stuff in that office. Financial records, legal documents, the life insurance policies from when you guys were married." "Life insurance?" Michael felt a chill run through him. "Did your mother update her life insurance when we separated?" Jeffrey's eyes widened. "I don't know. But if she did, and if Raymond was a beneficiary, then he had a motive." Michael stood, pacing the length of the loft. "Tomorrow, I'm going to make some calls. I have contacts, lawyers, investigators, people who owe me favors. We're going to find out everything about Raymond Brady's past, where he's worked, who he's been with, whether there's any pattern of suspicious deaths around him. And if there is, then we take it to the police with evidence they can't ignore." Michael stopped pacing, meeting his son's gaze. "But Jeffrey, you need to understand something. If Raymond killed your mother, he's dangerous. He's already gotten away with it once tonight, and he'll do whatever it takes to protect himself. You can't go near him. You can't confront him. You stay here with me until this is over. What about the funeral? We'll go together. We'll pay our respects to your mother. And we'll watch Raymond Brady very, very carefully." Jeffrey nodded, some of the tension leaving his shoulders. "Dad, thank you for believing me. I know how it sounds. I know the police think I'm just a kid who doesn't like his mom's boyfriend. But I saw what I saw. I know you did." Michael put a hand on his son's shoulder. "And we're going to make sure everyone else knows it too." Later that night, after Jeffrey had finally fallen asleep in the guest room, Michael sat in his home office, his laptop open, a fresh glass of bourbon beside him. He started with the basics: Raymond Brady's social media profiles, his employment history, public records. On the surface, everything checked out. Raymond had worked for 3 different pharmaceutical companies over the past 8 years, steady progression, good performance reviews that were publicly accessible through industry websites. His LinkedIn profile showed recommendations from colleagues, descriptions of successful sales campaigns, a professional headshot that made him look trustworthy and competent. But Michael had learned long ago that what people showed the world was rarely the whole truth. He dug deeper, searching for gaps in employment, unexplained moves between cities, any hint of scandal or controversy. At 3 a.m., he found the first crack in Raymond's polished facade. A Reddit thread from 2 years ago, posted in a grief support group. The user had since deleted their account, but the post remained. Does anyone else feel like they're going crazy? My sister died 6 months ago. The doctors said it was a heart attack, totally unexpected. She was only 38, healthy, no history of heart problems. Her husband, they'd only been married a year, was devastated. Everyone felt so sorry for him. But I found something in her things when we were cleaning out the house. A journal entry from a week before she died. She wrote that she'd been feeling sick, that her husband had been making her special smoothies every morning to help with her energy. She mentioned feeling dizzy, confused. The doctors said it was probably stress. But what if it wasn't? What if he? The post ended there, unfinished. Michael searched for follow-ups, but found nothing. He copied the username, ran it through several databases, trying to trace it back to a real person. Nothing. But the details matched. A young, healthy woman. Unexpected heart attack. A husband of only a year who seemed devastated. Michael opened a new search window and typed, Raymond Brady married 2022. Nothing came up. He tried variations, Ray Brady, R. Brady, different cities, different states. Still nothing public. He switched tactics, accessing a private investigator database he'd used for business purposes. It required a subscription and proper credentials, but Michael had maintained his access even after stepping back from day-to-day operations of his company. The search took longer this time, but eventually yielded results. Raymond Michael Brady, married to Sherry Velez in Austin, Texas, April 2022. Sherry Velez Brady, deceased November 2022, age 38, cause of death, cardiac arrest. Michael's hands trembled as he pulled up the obituary. Sherry had been a graphic designer, well-loved in her community, described as vibrant and full of life. The service had been held at a local church. Among the mourners listed was her devoted husband, Raymond Brady, and her sister, Luz Burns. Luz Burns. Michael committed the name to memory, then searched for current contact information. She lived in Houston now, worked as a teacher. Her social media was private, but her professional profile was accessible. He glanced at the clock. Too late to call tonight, but first thing in the morning, he'd reach out. If Raymond had killed before, if there was a pattern, Luz Burns might be the key to proving it. Michael closed his laptop and walked to the window, looking out over the Portland skyline. Somewhere out there, Raymond Brady was probably sleeping peacefully, confident that he'd gotten away with murder. Confident that a teenage boy's accusations would be dismissed as the ravings of a troubled kid. But Raymond had made a mistake. He'd underestimated Jeffrey's courage in speaking up, and he'd severely underestimated Michael Holloway's resources and determination. I'm coming for you, Michael whispered to the night. And when I'm done, everyone will know exactly what you are. Michael made the call to Luz Burns at 9 the next morning, after Jeffrey had woken up and eaten a silent breakfast. The kid looked hollowed out, grief settling into his bones in a way that made Michael's chest tight with rage. Luz answered on the third ring, her voice cautious. Hello. Ms. Burns, my name is Michael Holloway. I'm calling about your sister, Sherry Velez. Silence stretched for several seconds. When Luz spoke again, her voice had changed, harder, more alert. How did you get this number? I'm a private citizen with access to certain databases. Ms. Burns, I know this is unexpected, but I need to ask you about your sister's death. Specifically, about Raymond Brady. Why? The word was sharp, defensive. Michael took a breath. Because I believe he killed my ex-wife last night. And my son witnessed him doing it. Another long silence. Then, where are you located? Portland, Oregon. Raymond's in Portland? Luz's voice rose slightly. He moved to Portland? He's been here at least 6 months. He was living with my ex-wife, Catherine McKnight. She died last night of apparent cardiac arrest. My 16-year-old son saw Raymond put something in her drink hours before she died. Oh God. Luz's breath came faster. Oh God, I knew it. I knew he killed Sherry, but no one would listen. The police said I was in denial, that I was looking for someone to blame because I couldn't accept that she was gone. But I knew. Tell me everything, Michael said, already recording the conversation on a secondary device. Start from the beginning. Luz's story spilled out in a rush. Sherry had met Raymond at a medical conference in Dallas where she'd been doing design work for a pharmaceutical booth. He'd swept her off her feet. Charming, attentive, successful. They'd married after dating for only 4 months. Sherry was so happy, Luz said, her voice breaking. She said she'd finally found someone who understood her, who valued her. But about 3 months into the marriage, she started complaining about feeling tired all the time. She went to doctors, got all these tests, but everything came back normal. They said it was probably stress from work. Did Raymond encourage the doctor visits? He insisted on them. Went with her to every appointment, asked all the right questions, played the concerned husband perfectly. And every night, he'd make her these special smoothies, saying they'd help boost her energy. She drank them religiously. Michael felt his jaw clench. What happened in the weeks before she died? She got worse. Started having dizzy spells, confusion, heart palpitations. I visited her about a week before she died, and she looked terrible. Pale, weak, like all the life had been drained out of her. I begged her to go to the emergency room, but Raymond said the doctors had already ruled out anything serious, that it was just anxiety manifesting physically. And then, she died in her sleep. Raymond found her in the morning, called 911, did everything right. The autopsy showed cardiac arrest. The medical examiner said sometimes young, healthy people just have undetected heart conditions that suddenly become fatal. There was no reason to suspect foul play. But you suspected. I knew. Luz's voice was fierce now. When we were cleaning out her apartment, I found her journal. The entries from the last few months were disturbing. She'd written about feeling like her mind was foggy, like she couldn't think straight. She mentioned that Raymond had started controlling what she ate, saying he was helping her get healthier. And in the very last entry, 3 days before she died, she wrote something that still haunts me. What did she write? Raymond watches me like I'm an experiment. Sometimes I catch him staring at me with this cold expression, and when I ask what's wrong, he smiles and says he's just admiring me. But it doesn't feel like love. It feels like he's waiting for something. Michael closed his eyes, thinking of Jeffrey's description of Raymond's smile when he knew he'd been seen. Did you take the journal to the police? Yes. They read it, said it was concerning but not evidence of a crime. They suggested Sherry might have been suffering from paranoia due to her medical issues. One detective actually implied that I might have written the entries myself after her death, trying to create evidence where none existed. Jesus. I hired a private investigator with the little money I had. He found that Raymond had been married once before Sherry, about 5 years earlier. A woman named Elaine Terry in Phoenix. She died of a brain aneurysm after they'd been married for 14 months. The PI tried to dig deeper, but Raymond threatened legal action for harassment, and I couldn't afford to fight him. Michael made a note of the name. 3 wives, 3 suspicious deaths. The pattern was becoming clear. Did Raymond benefit financially from Sherry's death? She'd taken out a life insurance policy shortly after they married. $500,000. Raymond was the beneficiary. He collected it about 3 months after she died, then disappeared. I tried to find him, to maybe sue him civilly or something, but he'd moved and left no forwarding address. It was like he just vanished. Until he surfaced in Portland and met Catherine. How did they meet? Charity function, according to my son. Raymond probably targets women in specific social circles. Catherine was well off from our divorce settlement, owned her home outright, had her own life insurance policies. Luz made a sound somewhere between a sob and a growl. He's a predator. He finds successful, independent women, marries them quickly, kills them slowly, and takes their money. And no one stops him because he's so careful, so patient. That ends now, Michael said. I'm going to stop him. But I need your help. Anything. What do you need? Everything you have. The journal entries, the PI's report, medical records, anything that shows a pattern. I'm going to build a case so airtight that the police won't be able to ignore it. I'll send it all today. But Mr. Holloway, be careful. Raymond is smart. If he even suspects you're investigating him, he won't. As far as Raymond knows, I'm just the grieving ex-husband dealing with my traumatized son. He'll expect me to fade into the background. Sherry was smart too, Luz said quietly. And she still didn't see it coming until it was too late. After the call ended, Michael sat in his office, processing everything he'd learned. 3 dead women, all married to Raymond Brady, all dying of sudden cardiac or neurological events within 2 years of marriage, all leaving Raymond as the beneficiary of significant life insurance policies. The method was elegant in its simplicity. Slow poisoning that mimicked natural disease, symptoms that could be attributed to stress or undiagnosed conditions, death that appeared tragically sudden but medically explainable. No one suspected murder because there was no obvious motive. Raymond played the devastated widow, collected his insurance money, and moved on to the next victim. But he'd made mistakes this time. He'd underestimated Jeffrey's observational skills and Michael's resources. And he didn't know that his past was about to catch up with him. Michael's phone buzzed. A text from his lawyer, Paul Irwin, whom he'd contacted earlier that morning. Got the info you requested on Catherine's life insurance. Call me when you can. Michael dialed immediately. Paul answered with his characteristic directness. Catherine updated her life insurance policy 2 months ago. Increased the death benefit from $250,000 to $750,000. Named Raymond Brady as the primary beneficiary. 2 months ago, Michael repeated. Right around the time Jeffrey said Raymond was going through her papers. There's more. The policy has a 2-year contestability period, meaning if she died within 2 years of the policy date, the insurance company could investigate for fraud. But since she increased an existing policy rather than taking out a new one, that period was waived. Raymond can collect the full amount with minimal investigation. How long before he can file the claim? Technically, he could file as soon as he has the death certificate. Given the circumstances, apparent natural death, no suspicious findings from the initial police investigation, he'll probably have his money within 60 days. Michael's mind raced. Paul, I need you to do something for me. Contact the insurance company and request that they delay any payout pending a full investigation. Tell them there are questions about the circumstances of Catherine's death. On what grounds? On the grounds that I have evidence suggesting Raymond Brady has done this before. Multiple times. Paul was silent for a moment. Michael, that's a serious accusation. If you're wrong, Raymond could sue you for defamation and interference. I'm not wrong. And Paul, I need you to trust me on this. Can you make the call? I'll do it. But you better have something solid, because the insurance company is going to ask for proof. I'll have it. Just buy me time. Michael's next call was to Marcos Gorman, a former Marine who'd served in Michael's unit and now ran a private investigation firm in Seattle. Marcos answered with a gruff, Holloway. Heard about Catherine. I'm sorry, man. Thanks. Marcus, I need your help. How fast can you get to Portland? I can be there tonight. What do you need? Everything on Raymond Brady. I mean everything. Financial records, employment history, personal relationships, travel patterns. I need to know where he's been, who he's talked to, what he buys, where he goes. And I need it done without him knowing he's being investigated. This about Catherine's death? Yeah, my son saw him poison her. The police don't believe it, but I do. And I think Catherine wasn't his first victim. Marcos's voice hardened. I'll be on the next flight out. Send me everything you have so far. By early afternoon, Michael had assembled a small team. Paul handling the legal angles, Marcos on investigation, and Luz Burns sending over all her documentation about Sherry's death. He'd also reached out to contacts in Phoenix, trying to track down information about Elaine Terry, Raymond's first wife. Jeffrey emerged from the guest room around 2, looking slightly better after a few hours of sleep. Dad? The funeral home called. They want to know about arrangements for Mom. Michael looked up from his laptop. What did you tell them? That we'd call back. But Dad, we have to do something. We can't just leave her at the morgue while the autopsy happens. I know. Michael stood, stretching muscles gone tight from hours at the computer. We'll make the arrangements. But first, I need you to do something for me. What? I need you to write down everything you remember about Raymond. Every conversation you overheard. Every behavior that seemed odd. Every detail, no matter how small. Dates, times, specific incidents. Can you do that? Jeffrey nodded. You're building a case against him. I am. And your testimony is going to be crucial. But it needs to be detailed, accurate, and documented while your memory is fresh. What if the police still don't believe me? Then we'll find another way to make sure Raymond pays for what he did. But we do this right, Jeffrey. We gather evidence. We build an unshakable case. And we make sure that when Raymond Brady goes down, he goes down hard and he stays down. Jeffrey managed a thin smile. Mom used to say you were relentless when you set your mind to something. She said it was one of the things she loved about you, and also one of the things that drove her crazy. She wasn't wrong. Michael pulled his son into a brief hug. Now go write down everything. I'll handle the funeral arrangements. As Jeffrey retreated to his room with a notebook, Michael's phone rang again. Unknown number. He answered cautiously. Hello. Mr. Holloway? This is Officer Wade Tucker. We spoke briefly last night at the station. Michael remembered, the young officer who'd told Jeffrey he wasn't the first person to notice something off about Raymond. I remember. What can I do for you, Officer Tucker? Wade's voice dropped to barely above a whisper. I'm calling from my personal phone. This conversation isn't happening officially, but I think you should know that Raymond Brady came to the station this morning to pick up Catherine's personal effects. While he was here, I overheard him on the phone with someone, talking about accelerating the timeline and finalizing the paperwork sooner than planned. He was in the parking lot, thought he was alone. When he saw me, he hung up real quick and acted like he'd been talking about funeral arrangements. Did you report this to Detective Gregory? I mentioned it. She said it was probably exactly what he said, funeral arrangements. But Mr. Holloway, I've been a cop for 3 years. I've seen a lot of grieving spouses. Raymond Brady didn't look like a man who'd just lost the love of his life. He looked like a man checking items off a to-do list. Why are you telling me this? Wade hesitated. Because your son was telling the truth. I could see it in his eyes. And because I did some digging on my own time last night. Raymond Brady has been in Portland for 7 months. Before that, he lived in Austin, Texas. And before that, Phoenix, Arizona. Each time, he stayed for less than 2 years and left no forwarding address. That's not normal for a pharmaceutical sales rep with a stable career. That's someone who moves around deliberately, someone who doesn't want to leave a trail. Did you share this with Detective Gregory? I tried. She said it was circumstantial, that plenty of people move for work, and that I needed to focus on cases with actual evidence of wrongdoing. But I think there's something here, Mr. Holloway. I think your son saw exactly what he said he saw. I just can't prove it. Yet, Michael said. You can't prove it yet. Officer Tucker, I'm going to need your help. Unofficially. I was hoping you'd say that. What do you need? Access to the autopsy results as soon as they're available. And information on what Raymond does in the next few days. Where he goes, who he talks to, what he does with Catherine's belongings. I can do that. But Mr. Holloway, if this goes sideways, it won't. I'm very good at covering tracks when I need to. No one will know you helped me. After Wade hung up, Michael sat back, a plan forming in his mind. Raymond Brady had operated in the shadows for years, confident that his careful methods would never be detected. But now he was facing something he'd never encountered before. Someone with the resources, the connections, and the motivation to expose him. The next 3 days passed in a blur of activity. Marcos arrived from Seattle with 2 associates and set up a surveillance operation on Raymond's apartment. They tracked his movements, photographed everyone he met with, pulled his financial records through various legal and semi-legal means. Luz Burns sent over Sherry's journal, medical records, and the PI's report. The documentation was damning. A clear pattern of symptoms consistent with slow poisoning, insurance policies updated shortly before death, Raymond's controlling behavior masked as concern. Paul Irwin managed to delay the insurance payout, citing irregularities that needed investigation. The insurance company assigned their own investigator, a woman named Adrienne Gregory, no relation to the detective, who had a reputation for being thorough and incorruptible. And Michael spent hours researching Elaine Terry's death in Phoenix. He finally tracked down her brother, Glenn Bryant, who lived in Tucson. The conversation was eerily similar to the one with Luz Burns, a healthy woman who'd suddenly developed neurological symptoms, a devoted husband who'd made her special meals and supplements, a sudden death attributed to a brain aneurysm, and a life insurance payout that Raymond had collected before disappearing. I tried to tell the police something was wrong, Glenn said, his voice heavy with old grief. But Raymond was so convincing. He had answers for everything. Documents showing Elaine had complained about headaches to her doctor, evidence that brain aneurysms can be hereditary even when they're not. He made me look like a paranoid brother who couldn't accept that sometimes bad things just happen to good people. How much did he collect? $300,000. We'd just convinced Elaine to increase her coverage because Raymond said they were planning to start a family, wanted to make sure they were protected. She died 6 weeks after the increase went through. Michael thanked Glenn and added the information to his growing file. 3 victims, 3 nearly identical patterns. The only thing that varied was the method of death: cardiac arrest for Sherry and Catherine, brain aneurysm for Elaine. But the underlying strategy was the same: slow poisoning disguised as natural illness, insurance money collected, and a quick exit before anyone could ask too many questions. On the 4th day, Marcos called with news. We've got something. Raymond met with a lawyer yesterday. Lewis Carter specializes in estate law. Our guy managed to get close enough to hear part of the conversation. Raymond was asking about the timeline for probate, whether there would be any delays in accessing Catherine's accounts. He's moving fast. Too fast for someone who's supposedly grieving. There's more. We tracked Raymond's credit card purchases from the past 3 months. He bought some interesting items. A set of precision syringes from a medical supply website. A home chemistry set marketed for educational purposes. And he made regular purchases from a specialty supplement store that sells products with a warning label about potential interactions with medications. Can you tie any of that to the poisoning? Not directly, but combined with the pattern from his previous wives, it starts to paint a picture. We're also digging into his pharmaceutical connections. If he's been using prescription medications or compounds in his kills, he'd need a source. Keep digging. And Marcos? Be careful. If Raymond realizes we're onto him. He won't. We're ghosts, man. He'll never see us coming. That evening, Michael attended Catherine's wake with Jeffrey. It was held at a funeral home in the quiet suburb where Catherine had lived, the same house where she'd died. Raymond was there, playing his role perfectly, the bereaved partner, accepting condolences with stoic grace, his eyes appropriately red-rimmed. Michael watched him from across the room, studying the man who'd killed the mother of his child. Raymond was 43 but looked younger, fit and well-groomed, with the kind of practiced charm that came from years of manipulating people. He moved through the crowd like a politician, shaking hands, accepting embraces, his grief on display for everyone to see. When Raymond's eyes met Michael's across the room, there was a flicker of something, calculation, maybe, or wariness. But then he crossed the room, hand extended. Michael, thank you for coming. I know this must be difficult for you too. Michael shook his hand, feeling Jeffrey tense beside him. Catherine deserved a proper goodbye. She did. Raymond's voice was perfectly modulated, sad but not broken, strong but vulnerable. She spoke so highly of you, you know. Said you were a good father to Jeffrey. She was a good mother. Raymond nodded, his gaze shifting to Jeffrey. How are you holding up, son? Jeffrey's jaw clenched at the casual endearment. I'm managing. I know you and I didn't always see eye to eye, but I want you to know that your mother loved you more than anything. Her last thoughts were of you. It was a beautiful sentiment, perfectly delivered, and completely empty. Michael could see it in Raymond's eyes. No real emotion, just performance. Actually, Raymond continued, I was hoping to speak with both of you about something. Catherine and I had discussed her wishes for her estate, and I think it's important that Jeffrey understands his mother's intentions. This isn't the time or place, Michael said evenly. Of course, but perhaps we could meet sometime this week. There are practical matters to address, and I want to make sure everyone's on the same page. I'll have my lawyer contact you. Something flickered in Raymond's expression, annoyance, quickly masked. That seems unnecessarily formal. We're family, after all. Are we? Jeffrey spoke for the first time, his voice cold. You were married to my mother for 6 weeks. Raymond's smile never wavered, but his eyes went flat. Grief affects people differently. I understand you're upset, Jeffrey, but your mother and I loved each other. She would want us to work together during this difficult time. My mother would want justice, Jeffrey said, and Michael put a warning hand on his shoulder. We should go, Michael said. Jeffrey needs rest. As they walked away, Michael felt Raymond's gaze boring into his back. The performance had slipped, just for a moment, and Michael had seen what was underneath: cold fury at being challenged, contempt for anyone who questioned his narrative. Outside, in the parking lot, Jeffrey was shaking. I wanted to hit him. I wanted to tell everyone in that room what he is. I know, but that's not how we do this. We stay calm, we stay smart, and we let him think he's gotten away with it. Has he? The autopsy results came back today. Dad, I heard you on the phone with Detective Gregory. The toxicology was clean. Michael had been dreading this conversation. The standard toxicology screen had found nothing unusual in Catherine's system. No common poisons, no suspicious compounds. Just elevated stress hormones consistent with cardiac arrest. Standard tox screens don't test for everything, Michael said. Marcos is working with a forensic toxicologist to identify what specific compounds Raymond might have used. Once we know what to look for, we can request a more targeted test. And if we can't find anything, Then we build a circumstantial case strong enough that the police have to reopen the investigation. We have 3 dead wives, all with similar patterns, all with Raymond as the beneficiary. We have your eyewitness testimony. We have his suspicious behavior after Catherine's death. It's not enough yet, but it will be. They drove back to Michael's loft in silence. But as they pulled into the parking garage, Michael's phone buzzed. A text from Marcos. You need to see this. Coming to you now. Marcos arrived 20 minutes later with a laptop and a grim expression. He set up in Michael's office and pulled up a series of photographs. We got access to Raymond's apartment while he was at the wake, Marcos said. These are photos of his home office. The images showed a neat workspace, computer, filing cabinet, desk organizer. But it was the contents of the filing cabinet that made Michael's blood run cold. He keeps trophies, Marcos explained, zooming in on one image. Newspaper clippings about his wives' deaths, copies of the life insurance policies, and this. He pulled up a photo of a small wooden box, opened to reveal 3 items, a bracelet, a silk scarf, and a pearl earring. Those belonged to his victims? Michael asked. We cross-referenced with photos from their obituaries. The bracelet was Elaine's. She wore it in her wedding photo. The scarf was Sherry's. Luz confirmed it was her sister's favorite. And the earring matches a pair Catherine wore in photos on her social media. He kept souvenirs. More than that. Look at this. Marcos pulled up another image, showing a leather journal. He keeps notes. Detailed records of his process. Symptoms, dosages, timelines. It's all coded, but it's clearly documenting how he poisoned them. Jeffrey leaned forward, reading over their shoulders. Is this enough? Can we take this to the police? Marcos shook his head. We obtained it illegally. It would never hold up in court, and we'd be the ones facing charges for breaking and entering. So what do we do with it? Jeffrey demanded. Michael stared at the images, his mind working through angles. We use it as a roadmap. We know what Raymond used, how he administered it, what symptoms to look for. We take this information to our forensic toxicologist and ask them to test Catherine's remains for those specific compounds. And we find a legal way to obtain this evidence. How? Marcos asked. We make Raymond give it to us, Michael said slowly. We make him so confident, so sure of himself, that he gets sloppy. And when he does, we'll be there to catch every mistake. Over the next week, Michael executed a carefully orchestrated plan. He had Paul Irwin reach out to Raymond's lawyer with a proposal. In exchange for Jeffrey receiving Catherine's personal effects and family heirlooms, Michael would not contest Raymond's status as beneficiary of the life insurance policy. It was exactly what Raymond wanted. Confirmation that Michael wasn't going to fight him, that the path to his payout was clear. Raymond agreed immediately. Meanwhile, the forensic toxicologist Marcos had identified the compounds mentioned in Raymond's journal, a combination of prescription medications and plant-based toxins that, when administered together in precise doses over time, could cause symptoms mimicking cardiac disease. They were sophisticated enough that standard toxicology wouldn't detect them, but a targeted test would. Michael petitioned the medical examiner for additional testing, citing the family's concerns about Catherine's sudden death. The ME initially resisted, but when Paul Irwin presented evidence of the pattern in Raymond's previous marriages and the insurance company's investigator backed up the request, they agreed to conduct the specialized tests. The results came back on a Thursday afternoon. Detective Adrian Gregory called Michael personally. Mr. Holloway, we need to talk. The additional toxicology came back with some concerning findings. Can you come to the station? Michael arrived within the hour, Jeffrey beside him. Gregory met them in the same interview room where this had all started, but her demeanor was completely different. I owe you an apology, she said without preamble. Both of you. The specialized tox screen found traces of several compounds in Catherine's system, digitalis, aconite, and a synthetic beta blocker. Individually, they might have been overlooked. Together, they created a combination that would have slowly damaged her heart over several weeks before causing fatal cardiac arrest. Poisoning, Jeffrey said. Deliberate, premeditated poisoning, Gregory confirmed. And Mr. Holloway, the information you provided about Raymond Brady's previous marriages opened up a much bigger investigation. We've been in contact with police in Phoenix and Austin. Both departments are reopening the deaths of Elaine Terry and Sherry Velez as potential homicides. Are you arresting Raymond? Michael asked. We're bringing him in for questioning today. But I'll be honest, proving he administered these compounds will be difficult. We have the toxicology, but we need to establish opportunity, means, and intent. That's where your son's testimony becomes crucial. Jeffrey sat up straighter. I'll testify. I'll tell them exactly what I saw. You'll need to. But Jeffrey, you should know that Raymond's lawyer is going to attack your credibility. They'll say you were biased against him, that you made up the story out of resentment. You'll have to be strong. I can handle it. Gregory nodded approvingly. There's something else. We executed a search warrant on Raymond's apartment and vehicle this morning. We found a small vial of clear liquid hidden in his car's emergency kit. It's being tested now, but we believe it's the same compound mixture found in Catherine's system. Michael felt a surge of triumph. He kept it. He kept the poison. Arrogance, Gregory said. He's gotten away with this for so long. He stopped being careful. We also found his personal effects from his previous marriages, items belonging to the victims, and a journal with coded entries that our forensic analysts believe document his crimes. When will you make the arrest? As soon as we have the final lab results on the vial. Could be as soon as tomorrow. Mr. Holloway, I want to be clear, this is going to be a difficult prosecution. Raymond Brady is smart, he's careful, and he has the resources to mount a strong defense. But thanks to you and your son, we have a chance to stop him before he kills again. That night, Michael and Jeffrey sat in the loft, the weight of everything finally settling on them. Justice was coming, but it couldn't bring Catherine back. Dad, Jeffrey's voice was quiet. When this is over, when Raymond is in prison, what happens to us? Michael put his arm around his son's shoulders. We rebuild. We remember your mother the way she deserves to be remembered. And we make sure that what happened to her means something. The arrest came the next morning. Michael and Jeffrey watched the news coverage as Raymond Brady was led out of his apartment in handcuffs, his expression one of shock and outrage. The performance was still there, even now, the wronged innocent, the victim of a terrible mistake. But the evidence was overwhelming. 3 dead wives. A clear pattern. Poison in his possession. A journal documenting his crimes. And Jeffrey's eyewitness testimony, now supported by physical evidence that proved Raymond had, in fact, poisoned Catherine McKnight. The trial would take months, maybe years. But for now, Raymond Brady was behind bars, denied bail due to flight risk and the severity of the charges. Michael's phone rang. It was Luz Burns. I just saw the news, she said, her voice thick with emotion. They arrested him. They actually arrested him. They did. And they're building cases for Sherry's death too. Your sister is going to get justice, Luz. Because of you. Because you believed your son and you didn't let it go. Because Jeffrey had the courage to speak up, even when no one would listen. After he hung up, Michael looked at his son, seeing not the traumatized teenager from a week ago, but someone stronger, someone who'd faced the worst thing imaginable and hadn't broken. You did good, kid, Michael said. Your mother would be proud. Jeffrey nodded, tears finally coming. I miss her, Dad. I know. I miss her too. They sat together as the sun set over Portland, 2 people bound by grief but strengthened by the knowledge that they'd fought for justice and won. Catherine McKnight's death wouldn't be in vain. Raymond Brady's killing spree was over. And somewhere in that dark truth, there was a measure of peace. This is where our story comes to an end. Share your thoughts in the comments section. Thanks for your time. If you enjoy this story, please subscribe to this channel. Click on the video you see on the screen, and I will see you there.